In this video, I will explain you the chapter Discovering Tut, the Saga Continues, taken from the Class 11 book of Hornbill. Let me begin with the story. Tutankhamun, also known as Tut, was a teenager when he died. He was the last successor of his powerful Pharaoh dynasty who ruled Egypt for centuries. He was laid to rest laden with gold and then forgotten. Then, in the year 1922, his tomb was discovered, which made the world raise a question about what had happened to him and whether he had been murdered. After almost 80 years, his body was about to undergo a CT scan which would give a new information and clues about his life and death. Precise data would be provided with the help of a procedure called forensic reconstruction. That means the process of recreating the face of an individual. A strong and unnatural wind was blowing as King Tut's body was taken from his grave called Valleys of the Kings, an ancient Egyptian cemetery. Dark clouds moved quickly across the desert all day long and later even covered the stars. On 5th January at 6 p.m., King Tuts Mummy, a body of a human being that has been preserved ceremonially with resins, which is the world's most famous mummy, was placed in the CT scanner to investigate the mystery behind his death, which had occurred more than 3,300 years ago. All afternoon, tourists visited the 26 feet deep underground rock-cut tomb to pay respect to the king. Many people stuffed into the small area where the tomb was located and looked in admiration at the murals, that is the wall paintings of the chamber, and took a look at the face of Tut that had been painted with gold. While visitors read the guidebooks in a hushed tone, some stood silently wondering about his untimely death in his teen years. Some wondered if the curse of the Pharaoh, which leads to the descent of misfortune upon the person who disturbs him, is true or not. As Zahi Hawass, Secretary General of Egypt, leaned over the body to have a look, he said that the mummy was in a very bad condition because of what the British archaeologist means a person who studies human history or prehistory through excavation of sites and analysis of artifacts. Howard Carter did too in the 1920s. The treasure found at the Tuts grave is the richest till date and has come to be known as Pharaoh's legend. It has artifacts in gold, which are eternally beautiful and as good as new. Such artifacts still get attention. Tut was buried with things of daily use like a razor made of bronze, games, linen undergarments, and boxes of food and wine, which he could use in the next life. Carter took a few months to record the treasures found in Tut's grave. Then he began investigating his 3 coffins, which were nested one in another. In the first coffin, he found a piece of cloth with corn flour, which suggested that he had been buried in the months of March or April. When he reached the 3rd coffin, he was in trouble. The body had hardened due to the resins. It's a type of gum which had cemented the body, and it had stuck to the bottom of the coffin, which was made of gold. Carter wondered what to do next because no amount of force could separate the two. Carter tried to loosen the resins by keeping the body in the hot sun. He kept the mummy under 149 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 65 degrees Celsius heat for several hours, but still it remained stuck. He reported that a chisel could be used to cut down the mummy from the limbs and the trunk so that Tut's body could be taken out of the coffin. And that was what was done. According to Carter, he had no choice other than to cut the mummy. He believed that if he hadn't done that, thieves would have removed the gold from the tomb and would have looted it. During Tut's time, the royal people were very wealthy, and they had a belief that after death they could take the wealth along with them. For his life after death, he was given precious collars, necklaces with decorative patterns, bracelets, rings, amulets, all types of jewelry, ceremonial aprons, sandals, sheaths for fingers, that is coverings for fingers and toes, and now iconic inner coffin and a mask. His men removed his head and every joint of his body. After they finished, they reassembled the body in a wooden box with padding filled with a layer of sand to conceal the damage. It was his new resting place. In the past few decades, archaeology has changed as it now focuses the details of life and the mysteries of death. Earlier, it was about focusing on the treasure. Now it uses more advanced medical technologies and tools for research. In 1968, an anatomy professor x-rayed King Tut's mummy and revealed that the front limbs and breastbones were missing. Now, with the advancement of technology, CT scan or computed tomography, which is the full form of CT, can give a virtual image of the whole body. With the help of this technology, King Tut's body could be scanned to find answers to two questions: how he died and how old was he at the time of his death. He was the last ruler of his dynasty. However, what happened after his death is still not clear. So that's all in this video. The story will be continued again in the next video. Until then, goodbye.